morning, everyone, and welcome to Get Real With. Today we have a very special show because our guest is Rosalind Franklin. We are talking about a scientist with an international fame because her experiments have contributed a lot of to humans. We're with you, Rosalind Franklin.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I am very excited to be with you today to help me tell my story.
It's an honor to us to have you on the program. To help us to tell Rosalind's story, we'll be joined by Memo and Ren.
That's right, Ali. Besides, we will also have a surprise guest in the studio who will give us more details that may be of great to all those who listen to us. Isn't right, Memo?
Of course, Renata, this guest is another acquaintance of Mrs. Franklin who will tell us a little bit about Mrs. Franklin's work from his perspective, the scientist Maurice Wilkins.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm a little bit nervous for being here in front of the Dr. Rosalind Franklin and to tell my version about the greatest achievement.
Well, without further ado, Miss Franklin, could you tell us how it was that you wanted to dedicate yourself to science?
Sure, I remember that since when I was little, I liked to play memorama. I used to put the poker cards that my parents had and put them face down. The objective was to match the numbers in order to remember where I had put them. I also liked it to do arithmetic exercise. And I remember that one day my aunt saw me and went to my parents and told them, "Your daughter has an ability with numbers and talent to memorize." Sometime later, my parents put me in St. Paul's College. It was one of the best schools for women when I could develop that my passion I had for calculus. I always thought the best it was like a challenge for me. I remember that I really enjoyed math and chemistry classes. Since I can remember, I have a certain passion for calculus. However, I never liked that this passion became a version of life. So I also loved to play sports, and I remember that I was in the school teams, and just like in the classes, I sought to the best in training. I think my passion for science grew more than anything because I have never been characterized as prudent or withdrawn person, and that time being a woman in science was considered very rare and something unusual because science was always being dominated by men, and for me that was very strong insensitive to show what a woman could be.
Do you think if you had studied at a German university, you would have the same prestige as a scientist that you have now?
I think the situation at the time was quite complicated for everybody, but for a Jewish family the future was not all promising, and we would definitely have ended up in a concentration camp.
Mr. Wilkins, could you tell us a little bit about the peaceful proper Mary?
Well, I showed images of high-quality X-ray radiation of the DNA molecule that had been taken by Rosalind. In my view, it was a knowledge that the world should know as soon as possible.
How did you learn to use X-rays, and how did you come to discover DNA double helix?
In 1946, I went to Paris to work at the Central Laboratory of Chemical Services, where I learned how to use X-ray diffraction techniques. Thanks to that, I was able to arrive that did discover science it was necessary. The image I took during my stays at King's College by X-ray diffraction that revealed the double helix shape of this molecule. These photographs were known as a photograph 51.
Exactly, what is the photograph 51?
Photograph 51 is a photograph taken in 1952, which is part of genetic research and at the same time was the core of one of the great injustices of 20th century scientific history. The image itself is the capture of the DNA double helix, and I achieved it through this X-ray diffraction, although it was somewhat detectable to the naked eye because of the bands arranged in crosshairs.
How did you find out about the images taken by Rosalind?
Rosalind gave a talk to present her findings to her colleagues and at King's College. Mm, Among the audience were Watson and Crick. They're equally interested in the structure of DNA. I was not close friends with Rosalind, but with Watson and Crick, yes, and so we begin.
We also received information from other sources that indicate that the data you obtained were the key to determination of the Watson and Crick model of the DNA double helix.
What do you think? So this so-called third man of double helix.
It was hard to hear the comments that even say that the third novel should be Rosalind, which was when unfortunately she had passed away and could not be taken into account.
Although it has been a long time since Wilking's statements, most of the population still believes that all the credit goes to Watson and Crick. But the truth is that without Rosalind's contribution, Watson and Crick wouldn't have won the Nobel Prize.